All right, here we go. What is up, y'all? Will here with Schedulefly. And this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling and communication software backed by legendary customer service and all at a low price point. We are a bootstrap business. We've been doing this 18 years. We've grown to over 5,000 restaurants through word of mouth and just taking great care of our customers. And if you are one of the hundreds of thousands of restaurants still on pencil and paper or Excel or Google Sheets and you want to make life easier and make your employees a lot happier, go to schedulefly.com, 30-day free trial. My personal cell phone number is on the website on like 3 pages, so you can call me, you can text me. We can rap about Schedulefly. If you're on another scheduling software, there's a lot of stuff out there that sounds great, has a lot of shiny bells and whistles, but you may be paying a lot more money for something that you don't really need all of it. You just need a simple way to communicate and schedule and budget your labor. So 30-day free trial, no contracts, monthly pricing, and we would love to have a chance to earn your business. All right, that is Schedulefly. Now this is Restaurant Owners Uncorked, episode 600, and I don't know, we're getting up to about 630, 640 or so, and this is a repeat guest. It's been, gosh, maybe for 5 years, I think. My buddy up in Asheville, North Carolina, Eric Scheffer. What's up, Eric?
Morning, Will. How are you?
Good. Other than, as I was saying before we started recording, man, I'm battling through this cold right now, so I probably sound like crap, but it's been a long time since we've had a proper catch up. And, this is kind of how I kind of use the podcast to catch up with my restaurant owner buddies now, because, we talk about business and life and everything in between on here. So,
Yeah. Well,
glad to
you
have
look
this
good.
chance.
You may
What's
not.
that?
I said you may not sound great, but you're looking awfully handsome. So there you
Yeah, man. Well, you are too. Last time I was there, we got to hang out in person, and I wish I could
go.
do that again soon. But are you there in your
I'm in
office?
my office. I'm
Yeah.
downtown. Yeah, soon to be vacating. We bought a building on Merriman Avenue recently in North Asheville. I'm moving my corporate offices into and opening a new restaurant concept.
Nice, man. Okay, well, tell us about your group and what concepts you have, and you if you want to hear Eric's backstory, you can. It's on here, and we kind of went through the whole thing, how he got started. So it's on here about 5 years ago. But since then, we went through COVID. You went through a massive tragedy last year up in Asheville with the floods. So glad to hear that you are not only still going, but opening another concept. But where are you right now with your group?
Well, as you know, but I'll tell your audience, I own the Scheffer Group here in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been a chef and restaurateur for 25 years here. I've had a total of 7 concepts. Currently, we have Vinnie's Neighborhood Italian Restaurant, 2 locations. We have Jettie Ray's Oyster House, which is kicking butt, and Gan Shan, which is an Asian concept we have on the west side of Asheville. Soon to open up a 5th concept. I can't tell you what that is yet, but you will be the first to know, and you'll be able to share it with all your friends and family there, Will, as soon as I can announce it. But it's coming soon. Um, yeah, Asheville is an amazing place, as you know. I mean, the people that surround me in my community in the restaurant industry are just brilliant, hardworking, dedicated culinarians, and I'm just the proudest guy in the world to be one of many of them in this city. Helene was, I thought COVID was a gut kick. Helene, I think changed my life and many people's lives forever. I say that in some ways negatively and positively. Being able to do what me and my team were able to do for the city was a true gift and blessing for me personally and for everybody on my team. Do you mind if I just talk a little bit about that or
Dude, let's roll, man, because that was such a big, Helene, of course, everybody listening was the storm that came up through and just sat on top of the North Carolina mountains back, well, just over a year ago, right? 2024, fall of 2020.
exactly?
Yeah.
And it was horrific. It was what do they say, a 1,000-year flood, and a once in a lifetime occurrence here in the mountains of North Carolina where we don't see hurricanes. So it was disastrous. The entire town was shut down, no electricity, no water for several months, no electricity for several months. But we as a community knew there was a lot of people in need. Not only I have 170 people that work for me, and you can imagine the tentacles and how whether it was somebody who worked for me or a family member and such was being touched by this. We lost people, sadly. People lost their homes, but we knew we needed and had the responsibility of mounting some sort of support. I was very, very lucky to have, 4 restaurant locations. All of them had food in their coolers when we went down. Um, we brought together our management of each restaurant and said, how do we feed people? How do we help? I mean, even in the dark, how do we make sandwiches during the day? How do we take this food and turn it into? And so every restaurant basically, I believe it was like from 12 to 2 every day. We opened our doors to anybody. I don't care if you worked for me or not, to come to our front doors and allowed us to feed you. And we were starting to prepare meals. What that did for us then was I got a knock on my door by a gentleman named Patrick O'Kane, an old friend of mine, old chef in town who was working with World Central Kitchen as soon as they landed on the ground. And I had a relationship also with Jose from years ago. And they knew that we had, 4 kitchens that were just sitting there ready to go. So they asked if I could mount all my teams, culinary teams, back together again to start cooking for them. And in about a 2.5 week period of time, we put out about 45, almost 50,000 meals for World Central Kitchen, which was just a monumental feat. I mean, I owe it to the people that lead my kitchens to have organized and sat down with me to just pull this off. It was incredible. We were gathering clothing. We had several employees that lost their homes, so we were all asking everybody to please donate clothing and anything you had that we can help these people with. We found places for them to temporarily live. Um, and just understand we're all doing this, including myself, while you don't have any water flowing into your home or even into your restaurants. And what we did was, and this is a great story, I'll be very short with it. So it was like a ghost town around here, but there was all these water tankers going up and down different main thoroughfares, and they were mostly going to hospitals and to the police departments and fire departments, so they had water and such. And I just walked out into the middle of the street and I stopped this one tanker, this guy from Texas, and I had him pull into the parking lot. He was a very nice guy. He's very sweet. And I asked him to come inside and sit with me. And I could tell he was, he was a true Texan. So he walks into the restaurant and I go over to the bar and I grab 2 glasses and a bottle of bourbon and I put it on the table. And he and I sit across the table talking about what just happened. And I said, I need your help. I said, I need water. And I said, a lot of other people in the restaurant business are going to need water so we can support our communities. How can you help me? And he and I, over a handshake, created a way for him to supply, in the beginning, me and my restaurant's water. But I knew, okay, now how do I get the water in the building? So then I went to a friend of mine, Bobby Moody from Moody Plumbing. And I said, Bobby, I said, I got water. Now I got to get it into the building and I have to have it at the building. What can you do for me? And he and I, again, for like 3 days, we sat down and he started having these big 4,000-gallon black water containers delivered to Asheville. They were dropping them off at my restaurants. They were also using them at the hospitals and such. He devised this amazing system where he drilled through my building, so the water could come into my system with a UV filter and several other layers of filters, of water filters, and tied it into my system. And we had water. We had potable water. So I turned to my team, my Scheffer Group team, especially Jordan Taylor, who's one of my right-hand folks. I said, Jordan, how do we do this for the other restaurants? How do we get everybody on board? And it wasn't cheap. It was very, very expensive, but you had a choice: either go out of business or try to get yourself back up and going. And we were able to get 21 other restaurants in about 2 week period of time up and running with water. And it was I still today pinch myself because it's like excuse my French, how the fuck did we do this? And
That's a
yeah. So and then after that, a lot of people saw what I was doing and they were trying to replicate it, and they failed. So they'd call us up and said, "Okay, how'd you do it?" And so it just became this great snowball, and it worked until we were able to open a restaurant. We had the health department come out and said, you've got potable water. Electricity came back on after I'd say about 30, 40 days, and they allowed us to operate. So we started getting people coming into the restaurant. I was able to bring, I'd say, 80% of my employees back to work, both front and back of the house, and we fed people. So it changed my life forever. I saw humanity in so many different ways that broke my heart and lifted me up higher than I've ever felt before in my life.
the story about the dude rolling up
That was great.
water. But this is what we talk about so much on this podcast is restaurants are the heartbeat of every great community. And so much of our society now is we're on screens and we're not having these, basic conversations that unfortunately sometimes it takes a very tragic event to bring people together. So here's you and some dude from Texas with a couple of glasses of bourbon and a handshake deal. And that's what led to all of this. And that is a very uplifting reminder that when the cards are down, we do find ways to pull together and help each other. Was he up there? I know that a lot of people were just showing up to help. Was he just,
He was contracted his company out of Texas because they had a tremendous amount of not tremendous amount, but they had the most amount of tanker trucks.
okay,
And so they contracted him. He wasn't necessarily bringing water. In the beginning, he brought water from Texas, but then there were several locations at I believe the Weaverville Fire Department, and which was on a well system, and another well system in the south part of town that they were able to just fill their trucks up with. But he was contracted by FEMA initially
okay,
come up
gotcha.
here. Whenever these disasters happen, FEMA calls, some reliable, I guess, people at all sorts of levels. Believe me, there were people up here scamming too. I mean, the
Yeah.
one thing that was so disheartening and that I learned is the amount of money people make off of the backs of disasters and other people's tragedies. It's quite frankly disgusting. And we came across some of those. One of them kind of almost hoodwinked us into taking over one of our kitchens and was going to pay me money that was obscene, but all they were doing was charging municipalities and such, again, these obscene amounts of money, um, to really not deliver on what they said they would do. And what do? As soon as somebody starts catching on to them, they pick up the tent and they roll out of town and they have a pocket full of cash, and other people are hurt and left holding the bag. So there was a lot of that, and that's the incredibly horrible side of humanity that I saw. That was so sad and so discouraging. And what's interesting is that so Asheville up until then was, and we're coming back strong. We're a booming town. Everybody's got their heads down. They're all working, and a lot of other restaurateurs that I've known for years that I hadn't spoken to for years, all of a sudden we're talking. All of a sudden we're reconnecting. I'm still like we're still constantly staying in touch with each other. It 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 again, it's a tragedy, but it served some purpose to, as you said, have everybody put down their frickin' phones and connect as human beings with each other. And it's changed my life. It really has. It's made me rethink a lot of things in my life as well. So it's you know, I guess with the bad comes the good.
What has it made you rethink?
it's made me rethink how we support and treat our employees. It's made me rethink um, understanding how most employees in the restaurant business are a paycheck away from nothing.
Mm,
It's made me rethink how important it is to stay connected with my employees. You know, you and I talked in our first podcast that I did do this thing 10 minutes with Eric, you know, where I try to spend 10 minutes. We schedule it out with each employee that works for me so I get to know who they are better and what they need in their lives. And I realized even more than ever, my connection to them and my responsibility as their employer was that much more important that I paid attention, that I just didn't take shit for granted, and I just didn't take for granted that somebody actually showed up every day at my business, but like, what do they need? What do they really need as human beings? And so it's continually opened up my heart and my desire to make sure that that as a community we're supporting each other.
love it. Love it. How is Asheville rebounding from last year's? It's been just in general, it's been a lot of headwinds for restaurants, just period, over the last year. Um, Talk about Asheville and what you're seeing there.
Well, I will say I'll probably get in trouble for this, but you know, the our leadership in our city was slow on the uptake. FEMA was really slow on the uptake. We're
Yeah.
still waiting for FEMA dollars, and this is a year later. We're still waiting for promises from a lot of politicians, and it's a year later. Um, you know, it like any disaster, it takes the community to do the work that I believe, you know, the city should be helping doing. That they should have. There was a gentleman by the name of Ben Woody, and I forgot the gentleman's name, who was from the water department. It'll come to me, but they were brilliant. They were on the radio every single day, at least giving us updates. But beyond that, you know, the people in the city that should have been out there and helping us and guiding us, or you know, raising money and so on, it wasn't there. It was very, very sad. And I know this happens in a lot of disasters in a lot of communities, and it's I would hope it'd be rethought at some point. But you know, Asheville's resilient. Vic Isley at Explore Asheville, the CVB, you know, has done an amazing job of using her resources to let people know, to keep people in top of mind with people, and remind people that we're still here and we're still an amazing town, and you know, we still have amazing restaurants and places to visit and such. And so we've been seeing some tourism coming back. You know, certainly not what we've been, and I'm praying and hoping, but I think by spring of 2026, end of spring 26, I think it'll really kick back up. But you know, it's been hard. It's been hard to convince, you know, people in Charlotte and Raleigh and Chattanooga and Knoxville and such and Atlanta that Asheville's still Asheville. I mean, come here. We're still the same people. We still have the same great restaurants. We still have the same beauty. You know, you couldn't tell. I mean, yeah, for the first 4 or 5 months, this place was a disaster area, but we've cleaned up. The town looks good. The mountains, even though there's no leaves on the trees right now, are still gorgeous and spiritual and healing. You know, so Asheville is back. You know, and we're with open arms, ready to welcome people the same way we did before the storm. We are still the same people. And we need you. We need you to come up and, you know, and give us hugs, and we give you hugs, and you know, share humanity and share hospitality, and you know, just be human beings together.
Asheville's a wonderful place. Those of you listening, if you've never been, no better time to go. We'll be up there for a quick trip. We used to come up the first 2 days after Thanksgiving, or just the weekend after Thanksgiving. We used to come up, my family and I, every year to go to see the Biltmore Christmas display. And this year, because of kids' college schedules and everything, we're coming up, I think, sometime after Christmas. But it's a it's an incredible city. It's such a beautiful city and so many great people there. Um, and it is resilient and it has been around and it'll be around and people will be coming back for sure. Do you, outside of Asheville, just generally speaking about the world of restaurants right now, what are some of the bigger challenges that you're seeing?
Well, I think, and it's changing. I mean, the economy for the last, what, 4.5, whatever years has sucked, right? So prices went up, gas prices went up, you're getting charged fuel charges by, your broadline distributors and such. So, there was a real pinch. Meat prices went, off the chain and but I do see it um starting to stabilize. I see, certainly up here, I don't know where anybody else, but fuel prices have gone down. They're under $3, and sometimes I was at a gas station yesterday at $2.57, so that was pretty. Um, you know, broad line distributing pricing is coming down. With Jettie Ray's Oyster House, being, everything is from scratch, everything is fresh seafood. We fly oysters in from Massachusetts and Maine, and we bring stuff up from the coast. So that's still been a little struggle for us. So we've had to do some really good menu engineering with that. But in general, uh, I see I had actually a meeting yesterday with my CFO, and we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We do what, and this is very important, Will, for all those restaurateurs that are actually listening today. Um, the restaurant business is about pivoting. If you're not ready to pivot, that you're one disaster away from closing the door. You
Mm,
have to be able to look at your situation and say, okay, here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I'm bad at. Let's take the bad shit and put it aside and focus on what we're good at, like we did during COVID, where we became counter service restaurants, um, and be able to ride that until you can get back to normal. So, I've got an amazing team of people that work with me that are great at pivoting. And so we've been able to talk to our distributors. I speak to our broadline distributors like weekly, and you can
mm,
imagine how many I have, and I'm pushing on them and I'm checking prices and we're seeing if we can use a similar product that's cheaper, and you've got to do that. Otherwise that shit catches up to you real quick. And by the time you look, you're looking down and there's no money in the checkbook and I can't pay my bills. And it's, it's, it, I think you and I talked about this at one point, but restaurant business is a business. I mean, you've got to be on top of that stuff. So I see, to answer your question, I see a very positive year ahead of us. I really do. I do think on every level are starting to come back. I was just recently in Wilmington. One of the oysters that we feature, that I love these people at NC Oyster Company. I'm going to give them a plug. They're amazing. They do an oyster called Dukes. It's a young couple, Connor and Alyssa, sorry. We went out there. We were in the water with them for a day. We were clamming. We were, harvesting oysters, learning about their farming techniques and such. We got together, cooked meals together and such, and it was really great. But what I was watching also was a new generation of resilience, a new generation of oyster farmers, business people that were, learning how to do the dance, if you will, and keep themselves alive and still participate and not give up. And I think that's really a big part of it. I believe, and maybe I'm the internal optimist, there's always a way. You can always find the pathway. You can always, there's always, if you sit back and just calmly, okay, who can I turn to? Or what do I have in my own toolbox that I can use? Or, there's always a way. Things always work out. My daughter probably hates me saying this all the time, but when she's freaking out, it's like, it's gonna be okay. Things always work out. They always do, right? So, and I saw this with this couple at the coast in Wilmington. And they're resourceful and yeah, things have been tight for them, but they figured out a way to get the oysters out of the water and up to people like me, and they're starting to really really do well. And so I, I think those that aren't, I'll be a little rough here, wallowing in their own bullshit or, having a pity party for themselves, they're going to do well because you can sit around and complain about any politician you want or any administration you want or any, local government you want, but none of the cavalry is not coming. So you gotta figure it out on your own, and you got to use your own resources and look at the people around you, and don't be afraid to go to a vendor and say, you know something, I'm struggling right now, but how can we work together? I want to continue paying you, and I need to continue getting your product. Let's work it out. And I've had to do that back in the old days with Savoy. I mean, it was tough on sometimes, and but people are generally, they don't want to go out of business either. They want your business. They want you to keep on buying produce from them or fish or, you
Sure.
know, a box of pasta. So talk to the people that are in your community, that are in your business that you can work with. I mean, it's it's the only way to survive. But the answer to your question is I'm very optimistic. I think we're about to make a big turn both in our economy in the country and also locally here in Asheville and in North Carolina in general.
Love the optimism. I was slight tangent, but I think it is so in line with what you were just articulating, which is, by the way, is that a Starbucks cup?
Yeah. Yes. I had to I normally make my own coffee and um I went to one of the restaurants this morning and they were out of the coffee I happen to like, which is Dynamite Coffee. I'll give you a plug here in Asheville, North Carolina. There's
There
Supplicor.
we go. Okay.
But they were out and I had to go to the man and pick up some
Oh,
coffee.
man, at least I see they wrote your name on it. They stopped doing that thing where they slap a sticker on there. I do know that new
No, they put
CEO.
my name on it and they left it like that without also giving me their opinion about what the fuck's going on in the world today. So
That's good. So dude, I had this I hope someday I can get you to come down here to Waxhaw and hang out with me.
I would love that.
We've got this have you ever been to Waxhaw? It's just south of Charlotte.
Actually, I just came down through Waxhaw because one of my oldest, closest friends, Cody Stokes, who is a one of the senior folks at Cisco,
Mm.
uh, is just got married and his new wife lives in Waxhaw. So he has a house here and a house in Waxhaw. So, and he's been trying to get me to open up a Vinnie's in Waxhaw forever.
Oh man, I need to get connected with him. I'd love to meet him.
I'll hook you up with him. He's great.
Yeah. Well, so I've got this I'm in my house right now, but I've got this little office down in Waxhaw, this old barn, a building called the Mule Barn. And this dude's had this building in his family for generations, literally. I'm gonna go let the dog out here. And so it was a literally a mule barn. Like when you brought your horses to town, you would tie them up at the mule barn while you went into town to get your provisions. And so nowadays he's got like retail on the first floor and offices upstairs. And so I uh I was in there yesterday down on the first floor, and there are these beautiful slates. They're like old roofing slates that literally buildings in the 1700s and 1800s used for their roof. And this dude, so this store is like it's like all local vendors, and they have like little sections of the store, right, where they put their, where they put their whatever they're selling. So I was asking about these slates, and the lady at the store was like, "Yeah, he was a roofer, and he got injured, and he couldn't be a roofer anymore." He's like, "Well, I got to figure out a way to make an income." And so he had all these slates that over the years he had torn off of old buildings. Like some of them were from Davidson College, right? Like, I mean, all over around here we had really old buildings. And he had saved them all. And he never knew what he was going to do with them. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Well, okay, I've got these slates." And he didn't know how to paint, but he's just like, "I'm just going to start like trying to learn how to paint." And that dude is painting like nativity scenes and all these cool paints. I mean, they're not like world class, but they're really, really beautiful on these slates. And I'm like, that I was just telling my wife that story yesterday. I was like, this is what you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's in any business, it's in any time when you have to learn, you you can either pivot You can have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And if you have a fixed mindset and you just wallow, as you said, in blame, then you're not going to ever get out of it. Like nobody's coming to help. If you have that mentality of going, all right, well, what can I do? Let me be creative. Let me figure it out. That is the way. And I agree with you. Look, now more than ever, I don't trust any politician, none of that. Like, I mean, we saw that even, I mean, good gosh, like FEMA, where were they now? I mean, it's like, what in the world? So they're not going to be, don't believe that they will. They're just not. But you have friends and family and people in your community that can band together to solve problems. And whether that's fair or not, doesn't matter. It
Well,
is.
but I do think it's fair. I think that's what humanity is about. Sadly, you know, and I don't want to go off on this tangent, but if you go back to when this country was founded or the early, the 1800s, government wasn't in our lives. I mean,
Exactly.
we didn't even pay fucking taxes back then. So,
Yeah.
we had to be resilient, and they were
Yes.
resilient. That's why we had the Industrial Revolution. That's why we had all the inventions that we had and the things, because people had to figure the shit out on their own and not, have their hands out and rely for somebody to come and, and take care of them. If you do that, you're doomed. You're absolutely doomed. And I'm the first one to tell you, nobody's coming to save your ass.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. You got to do it yourself. And, believe in yourself, because 99.9% of the time you can do it. You can figure this out. You can find the solution. I actually the other day I was driving I was in Madison County, which is north of Asheville. It's a rural county. And I came across a woman in a parking lot. It was this lovely Mexican woman selling tamales out of her cooler, out of the back of her car. And I went and talked to her. First of all, I wanted to try her tamales because I love that shit. And I talked to her, and I speak Spanish, and she spoke some broken English. And I asked her why she was doing what she was doing. She said, because I want to take care of my children. I want to put my children through school, she said. So she didn't I said, with all due respect, I asked her, I said, did you go to welfare? You on, Medicaid? No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to take care of myself, she said to me. And it was brilliant. It was like, it brought a tear to my eye because, she gets it. She gets the fact that she's smart enough. She can figure it out. She knew how to make tamales. She found herself a cooler and she's making some dough. And it it gave me such encouragement for myself in my own life. It just reinforced that that all you have to do is take a deep breath and put your head down. And I know it's hard for some people out there. I get it. I think I don't know if your audience knows, but I raise a blind child who's autistic, and it ain't easy for her. She's 26 years old. Every single day brings us very difficult challenges. Um, but I'm not going to wallow in that bullshit. We're going to deal with it, and I'm going to do the best I can to make sure she's provided for and keep on moving forward.
Oh, well, that's the spirit of our country, man. It really is. I mean, it's interesting because, economic success follows the education system. It's not the opposite. Uh,
Exactly.
and we've got a generation of people that are, particularly with AI, that are coming out of college with degrees that are frankly useless,
Mhm.
or don't have, a lot of application, maybe not useless. I got two kids in college right now, and I'm like, I just don't know. Like, I mean, meanwhile, we're down, 7 million tradespeople or something like that, and, technical skills jobs and things like that. So it is a really interesting time.
I'm
You may
I'm
want
doing
to,
everything. Excuse me, Will, to interrupt you, but I'm doing everything I can, and we're getting close. Working with the high schools around here and even the colleges to convince people to you want to learn how to cook. You want a real job? You want a job that can lead you to owning your own restaurant one day, or being a chef in a restaurant one day, or being a manager in a restaurant one day? Come, I will do that for you. I will pay you and I will educate you. And yeah, it's going to be hard, but you know something? the hard work is what makes you tougher and better. And this, like you, I mean, a lot of the kids that work for me, especially in the Vinnies, are high school kids or college kids. And I know I'm going to get shit for this, but I try to convince most of them to quit college and go get a trade. I said, you want to make some real money? You want to make 100 grand a year, $150,000 a year? Go be a plumber. Go learn
Yep.
how to weld. Go learn to be an
Yep.
electrician.
Yep.
When I pick up a phone, I can't find people that are
Dude,
decent or that are good. So,
totally.
I see the shift, and I'm hoping that this new generation here starts seeing it as well. But we're doing everything we can to go out and say, hey, we'll give you a job in the kitchen. And you may start out as a dishwasher, but I can count on two hands, Will, and you knew some of them. Sadly, one of them just passed away last year. Chefs that people that have started with as dishwashers with me that became chefs and own their own restaurants now. You can do it.
You can do it. And one of the things about restaurants is that you do learn these skill sets that will apply anywhere. If you can operate in a restaurant, even if it's just washing dishes or whatever, where there's high stress, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of change, a lot of energy all at one time, short bursts of like massive amounts of just activity. And you can do that and learn to do that with a cool head and communicate with your fellow employees and your guests calmly and intentionally. That is a like massively, massively valuable set of skills that would apply to anything. I mean, literally anything.
It'll
Um,
get you through life.
it'll get you through life. Yeah, no, I agree, man. We talk about that a lot. I mean, I've had my first two kids have worked in. I'm all three of my kids have to have a restaurant. I'm not letting them get out into the world without having at least one restaurant job. And you know, you may wind up with a lot of people that are in the next few years that went to 4-year college that are showing up going, hey, can I serve tables? And great, because you're going to have probably some really, smart, talented young people working in this space. But it is a great opportunity to learn. And when I always say, like, go work for a restaurant, not, well, I will admit I did have my son work at Chick-fil-A because I knew he'd learn a lot from that. But I also think I wrote a long blog post years ago about how I think everybody should work for an independent restaurant owner at some point because you'll learn from the person that owns the business that is their livelihood. And that's such a valuable experience to have what you're talking about, what you're offering to those high school kids and those college kids, that whether they end up being a restaurant owner one day or not, they're going to learn at least what it takes to run a business and run their own small business. And maybe they become a plumber or a welder. But you know what? If you're a plumber or a welder or an electrician, and you can deal with like constant changes to your schedule. This person cancels. Oh, we got to do this. And you can do that with follow up, being there when you're supposed to be there, communicating effectively, doing what you said you're going to do, under promising and over delivering, which you learn in restaurants, then any business you're going to be
You
successful.
you control your own destiny.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. You really, there's nobody else but you that you look at in the mirror every morning. You control your own destiny. You can do whatever you want. You can be as big or small as you want. And with all due respect, and I know, the guy who started the Asheville Independent Restaurant Association is talking to you here right now, but Chick-fil-A is an interesting company. They're $22 billion a year, and they started out with one store. And I don't eat that type of food, and I don't do fast food. I'm just a healthy guy that way. But I did go in there because I bought some Chick-fil-A for some people at during the hurricane, actually, at the hospital. And if you just watch how incredibly intentional and orchestrated those people are in that restaurant, and you see why they're as big as they are and as successful as they are. I mean, there's something to be learned there, is what I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily supporting, the big corporate monster, because that's not what I'm about. But you do learn these things by working in restaurants, and especially independent restaurants, I would say, because there's a little bit more of a personal feel there and such. But you hit it on the head, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely, yeah, learning to do that. One thing I'll say is, so I'll give you a little grace for that Starbucks cup if you give me a little grace. Like every now and then, my son's at ECU, and ECU is it's in Greenville, North Carolina, right? It's 4 hours from here. So like sometimes when I'm I drop him off, and then like I'll do like he's a freshman, so he's not well, he can have a car, he doesn't. So I'll do like an 8 hour round trip day, right? By about halfway back, I'm like, I'm hungry, and I do know at least if I need some food, I could stop in Chick-fil-A and get some grilled nuggets, get a 12 count, not feel too bad. Because I'm also really into my health too, man. I'm like, I'm very careful about what I put in my body, and I want it to be good quality whole foods. But you know, so we'll give each other grace on that one. Every now
Yeah.
and then, you kind of have to.
If life was perfect, um, it wouldn't be life, and we wouldn't learn the lessons that we learn, and we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace every now and then, don't we?
Perfect's the enemy of good enough, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask you, because you're there in Western North Carolina. I mean, I know you said you have a lot of broadline distributors. Do you work with Benny Keith?
Who's Benny?
Ben E. Keith, like
Oh,
Ben,
Ben E. Keith. No,
Ben E. Keith. Have you heard of
no,
him?
I've heard of them, yes.
Okay.
But no, no, I don't work with Benny Keith. Ben E. Keith.
Okay. I was just curious. The reason I asked is that they have a what they call the host program, and they have like 10 vendors that are part of this program, and they try to be really intentional about going to their customers. This is what you were talking about earlier. This is why I want to bring this up with like helping their customer to be successful. Because if the customer continues to be successful, obviously they continue to be successful. They want their customers to thrive. So we were pretty stoked because we got picked as their preferred scheduling provider against all these other massive companies we compete with. And they're very much a old school, look you in the eye, handshake deal kind of company. And that's why our culture really resonated with them. So we're just kind of kicking that off. And I really I like the way they do business. And I think they're in your area. They're in like 22 states now, and I think that they're in Western North Carolina. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, yeah. I'm an incredibly loyal man.
Yeah.
I am loyal to the people that work for me, and I'm loyal to the vendors that have taken care of me. Uh, you know me very well. I don't bullshit. I'm very straightforward. I tell the truth, and sometimes people can't handle that, but those that can, and embrace what my vision is and what I need from me. And as long as we can have an equal exchange, I don't want to take advantage of anybody. As long
Yeah.
as we're making money and I'm making money and we're,
Yep.
we're looking out for each other, that's what it's about for me. I've been very blessed, and having soon to be 5 restaurants, it's you do have a little bit more power, so I can wield a little bit more, like, this is what I really need from you guys. And if you can't do it, that's fine. I mean, there's plenty of other people that can. And, in general, most people, and I'm not pushing this at all, but, the folks I've known, people at Cisco for 20 some odd years. I mean, guys that are now like the presidents and vice presidents of the company that, when times were hard for me back, when I had to close Savoy because of the economy, they stood up for me, man. They were there. They didn't let the wolves in the accounting departments come and shut me down. They said, no, let's work with this guy and see what we see his vision. We see this new restaurant called Vinnie's that he wants to open up, and they worked with me. So I'm very loyal to people like that, and I'm not just going to jump ship because. Doesn't mean we're not always interested in looking at new people and seeing what's going on. We're currently making a change in people that do our hoods, for instance, and I really wish there was a great company out there that did trash removal because the ones that are out there now they just don't seem to care. But anyway, I'm getting off tangent
Well,
here.
there's an idea for somebody.
There's
Go do
there's
a
an
really well done, trash removal business.
exactly, and I want to say this because I have my glasses on, but I know we have about 10 more minutes. Uh, and I'm not just saying this. I give everybody my word. I don't make anything for this. But what Will does is amazing. And it's the reason why we use Schedule Fly. It's,
Oh, dude. Oh, come on,
no,
man.
I'm serious because, you are who you are. You are a man of your word. It works. My teams love it. It's not expensive at all, and it's a great product, and it's people like you that I like to work with. I mean, that's how you and I became friends because it you do something for me, I do something for you, and it's the way the world should go. And you know, my dad told me a long time ago, those people that are in your lives, that if something, if the shit really hit the fan, and you can turn to somebody and they're willing to show up, those are the people you want to keep close to you. And I have a good handful of those, and I include you in that. That I know if shit happens, I can pick up a phone and make a phone call to and say, what can you do to help? So
Oh, for sure, dude. Yeah. Well,
important.
thank
So,
you. Well,
sure.
yeah, I appreciate that. That's not, thank you. That that really means a lot. That's definitely how we roll for sure, man. Um, well, what else is going on, Eric? What else should we talk about, man?
Well, I think, there's this interesting discussion going on right now, here in Asheville, because you probably, and well, in the Southeast, so Michelin came to the Southeast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All that stuff. And I was just interviewed by a magazine about this. And they were asking me, what am I doing different now that Michelin's in town? What, do we want a star and all this stuff? And I'd be lying if I said no. Everybody wants the recognition. Everybody wants that, that pat on the back, but it's not how we live our lives, and you can't live your life like that. We're going to deliver exceptional hospitality, unreasonable hospitality, as Will Guidera would say, every single day, regardless of a star or not a star. That's
Yeah.
not what drives us. That's not who we are. And it's kind of sad, those that do. It's kind of because you're not being honest. You're not being honest with yourself and your customers. And so that's been an interesting thing here in Asheville, because a lot of people got what is it called, the Green Star or something, the nod of something. I don't know what it is. And then a lot of restaurants, like Jettie Ray's Oyster House, for instance, we're one of the, we were number 4 in the country for TripAdvisor as the most 5-star reviews. Number 4 of every
Wow.
restaurant in the country.
Awesome, dude. That's amazing.
I didn't get a star. I didn't get a nod. I didn't get, fuck all. And I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care. What I care about is that the public cares. The
Yeah.
public sees what we're doing. The public's giving us their stars. That's the most important thing to me. And so I don't suggest anybody changes anything that you do, um, just to try to win an award, just to try to, get something, and again, sure, it's great if you get it, but that's not how you should manage your business or your life. And I think also, will, the other thing that I think is very important to recognize is, I do my best. We talked, we touched on it. I actually have a rule. You can't bring politics into my restaurants if you work for me. Just can't. Can't talk about it. Can't wear a badge or a T-shirt or anything. I want to have a space that people can come into and not feel divided. I want to have spaces that people can come into and put their arms around each other and support each other. I don't care who you are or what you support. We're in this boat together. And the more we allow ourselves to be hoodwinked by the other shit, the more it's going to divide us, and the more it's going to make life miserable, and the more it's just not worth it. So I encourage that a lot with my other friends in the restaurant business. It's just we have a rule at the house: no phones on Sundays, put the phones down when we're having dinner, all that stuff. And it's a it I'm trying. We actually have rules in the restaurant: no phones unless there's an emergency. If somebody needs to call you, have them call the restaurant. I'm happy to let you go and talk to them at that point. But
That's
you're
freaking
here.
awesome.
You're here to serve people.
Yeah.
We are in service of others. There's no greater gift or blessing on this planet than to be in service of others and to deliver hospitality. That's what life is about for me.
There's no greater gift on this planet than to be in service of others. I love that. I love that you don't have anybody allowed to use their phones and you can call the restaurant. That's like old school before we had phones and you had to call
Exactly.
the restaurant. And you really hope that nobody did call the restaurant while you were there because it's like, dude, why is somebody calling you? You're working. unless it's an emergency. So, oh man, I am so grateful to hear you talk about that and just to talk about all of this stuff. I hope that we're moving back in that direction. I do think that everybody knows the pendulum went way too far with these phones and these social media apps. Even my kids know, they're 21, 18, 16. Um, they're trying to divide us, right? Because if we're divided, then I mean that's the goal of like, that's why it's so good you don't allow politics in there. That it's just a divisive thing, and if people are divided, then you can control them. And that's true with politics, it's true with social media, it's true with all this stuff. Put people in tribes and then, keep them there. And
Right.
it's seriously, I mean, that's it. Like we're capable. I mean, you've talked about so many positive and optimistic and powerful messages today, Eric, about what we're capable of when we rely on ourselves and we rely on our others and not on politicians and not on big corporations. And I mean, they know what they're doing. Like,
Sure.
we're easy to program. I heard this term once. I really like it. We're moist robots, right? Like we're like programmable was the point. We have skin and we're moist, but we're like programmable if we're not careful. And you have to be mindful of that and just, this is such a powerful, just philosophical conversation, man. I love this kind of stuff.
I tell people a lot when they choose to go down paths like that. I always say to them, look, if you can name one politician that knows your name, that knows who you are, then
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the guy next door to me in the shop next door to me knows my name. I guarantee you the guy at the tire shop knows my name. Those are the people you want to support. Those are the people you need to put your energy towards.
Yeah, well, if the politician knows your name, you're probably in his or her pocket. So
Well, exactly. Well,
you're
that's the
probably
other
in
thing.
your pocket. Yeah.
Right. I'm probably writing them a big fat fucking check. So
Yeah, that's right. Oh man, what a great time catching up with you, Eric. I really, really enjoyed this a lot, man.
me too. Thank you.
You gave me a good spark. I got out of the bed today. This cold is knocking me down, and this is just like lifting me up. So I really appreciate it a lot.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, seriously, if you do head down this way, we'd love to have you in Waxhaw. Waxhaw is happening, man. We got all kinds of stuff going on there now. It's growing
Pretty
and
cool little place. Yeah.
it's a cool little place. And I would love to get to know your friend that's down here. I'd love to have him over
Oh,
sometime or
yeah, sure.
for a drink or something like that. Um,
I'll
so
let him know.
one favor, if you haven't already done this, you probably have, but if you haven't, go to iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and give Restaurant Owners Uncorked a
Sure.
5-star rating. I've been asking for the ratings because I've noticed the more ratings we get, the more the algorithms put this stuff out in front of other people, and people need to hear this stuff. So, and for those of you listening, same thing. I say it every show now, but just tap that screen. It takes 2 seconds. And thank you all for listening. We appreciate y'all. What a wonderful episode, and more episodes coming soon. We will see you.
Thank you.